Welcome back, people. This is Eric Johnson, the brand.
And Aaron Thigpen, the source. Today's topic, planning and scheduling for success. I always joke with other coaches and parents that I'm in the business of failure. Or we're in the business of failure.
Exactly.
And what I mean by that is most athletes and parents don't think about training and coaching until they've failed. The impetus sometimes for a lot of people tends to be the failure aspect of sports. They seek out help, instructors, trainers, coaches, after they've failed. Well, what if we turn this on its head and we be proactive? And that's what I want to talk about today. Because the athletes that I've worked with over the last 25 years, and EJ too, the most successful athletes and parents have always taken a proactive stance to their development. In other words, they get ahead of it, they sit down and they plan and they plot and they schedule and they work this plan as best they can to ensure success. If you're reactive to everything, if you're reactive to maybe why you're striking out a lot, or maybe why you're not getting the ball over the plate, or maybe why you're not fast enough, a lot of times it's too late. And you have to retrack and then try and catch up. But I always say be proactive, because then you can put yourself on a trajectory for success.
That's a great point, Aaron. Yeah, I think I just go back to all this information we're getting. We hear about Kobe Bryant. We hear about Michael Jordan. We hear about LeBron James. We hear about other athletes, Mike Trout. Numerous of superstars in any sport. And it seems like they had a plan and they initiated. It wasn't like, okay, somebody told them that you need to do this and this is what you've done. They've always had a plan, and it's been so like orchestrated. It's Tiger Woods, for instance. His dad had a plan, and this is what they did, and they had a coach they initially went to because they thought that coach could get them to this next level, and always trying to move forward rather than wait for something bad to happen to them and then, okay, now I gotta go find this answer. And it seems like when you find those athletes, those parents, and those kids that come to us, they're searching for something. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a new medicine or something like that. And as you know, you and I have been doing this for a lot of years, and finding that new remedy is not what this is about. It's about a plan. It's about saying, hey, we're going to get ahead of this and move, and then we can adjust. We need to adjust in our plan,
right,
and do that. But we're not chasing something.
Right.
I think that's important.
No, I agree. I mean, some of you may not like me for using this analogy, but maybe that's the same situation we're in with COVID-13.
Right.
And if you talk to the experts, they say a vaccine may be 18 months away.
Absolutely.
And if there were some of the things that were put into place ahead of time and anticipating these sorts of things, we wouldn't be reactive, and we wouldn't be in the current economic and health situation that we're in now. So hate me for making that parallel, but I see it.
I mean, it's so true, Aaron. I mean, we in athletics, in the business that we're in, and trying to get athletes where they need to be, if they don't get ahead of it and be proactive, then they're going to be chasing things for year after year after year. And it's not like compound interest where you're gaining ground. It's not compound interest. You're always like, okay, here I'm in the stock market. I'm going up. I'm going down. Oh, I got to make another adjustment. And what happens is you're going flat or underneath the curve all the time. You're never getting to your potential where you're growing. It's compound interest. It's about getting here when you're younger and building blocks because your body is developing.
As someone who is in the stock market, I love that analogy. And you said something that's very important that people don't really understand is the power of compound interest.
Right.
And for those of you who are financially minded, you really understand that. That's where wealth is built. And from an athletic standpoint, those initial investments compounded daily,
Right.
annually, turn into athletic success, i.e. wealth.
Right.
So it's like any other savings plan.
Mm-hmm.
You have to start early. You have to invest often. You have to make quality investments and quality decisions. And you're going to reap the rewards, i.e. that investment, later on.
Well, Aaron, you make a great point, because as you're making these physical athletic investments, sometimes you can get stagnant here, and then you go back to that person. Hey, what can I do to keep moving on this path? But you have to have a plan, and you have to say, okay, year 1 I'm here, year 2 this is where I'm going, year 3, year 4, year 5, and you have these goals, and you're writing down your goals, and you're trying to achieve them, and you're being smart about it. And I always say this, in order to have growth, you have to learn and keep moving forward and know where your goal is, and see it every day. I always like to use this analogy. If you want this, I want you to look at it every day.
Right.
Just to remind you where you're going, rather than say, oh, I put it away for 2 months and now I'm coming back to it, and then you get hyper and then you go for it and then you crash.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, like you said, if you're financially savvy, you're in a stock market and sometimes it crashes, but you still have your goal. You're still building,
Right.
you're still building. But some people, when they crash in their training or their system they're in, it's like, okay, let me reinvent the wheel and go somewhere else and do this new thing, and then they crash again, let me go somewhere else, do that, and all they're doing is flatlining or going below the curve, and not really gaining any momentum towards their goal.
Right. And so what does that look like? What are the mechanics of that?
Mm-hmm.
And what are my personal advice that I give to athletes is start with a journal. And, I'm a tactile person, so I have a notebook. For those of you, millennials now, you've got all kind of electronic devices that will allow you to record your journal. Right. I tend to like to see mine and feel mine, because it makes that movement forward a lot more real to me. But start with a journal, and on that first page, write down your goals. And maybe write down a short-term goal, medium-range goal, and long-term goal. Short-term goal could be, what I want to accomplish this season. Mm-hmm. Long-term goal might be, or medium goal might be, what I want to accomplish post-season, maybe during the summer.
Right.
And then long-term goal might be, how do these two things move me towards a college career?
Right.
And you write out what is that, and then the other thing is you got to write out what that's going to look like. Just not say, hey, I want to play college ball,
Right.
But I want to play college ball in this conference for these teams, playing this position. That might be a way of
That's a great way
defining
to do it. Aaron, it's an outstanding way to do it, because it gives you a roadmap, and within those things that you mentioned, there is research that you have to do. You want to play at a certain university. Okay, what position are these guys recruiting? If I'm going to be here in 3 years, and what have those athletes that played that position at that university? What are they? What were their stats in high school?
Exactly.
What were their stats? What did they do? And find out all that background information. So when you're being proactive with your plan, it's giving you some sort of guide, and you're moving in the right direction. But if you have no direction, then again, it goes back to that model of crash and burn.
Right. Yeah, you've got to know where you want to go before you take off. It's like you just don't hop in the car and say, okay, well, I'm gonna head north.
I'm gonna go do that.
Yeah. Well, maybe eventually you might, hit what you're looking for, but no, you need to be a lot more discerning than that.
Yeah.
And so once you have that general entry down, then you got to say, okay, well, what, like alluding to what you just said, What do I need to look like as an athlete? Speed-wise, power-wise, conditioning-wise, size-wise. What do I need to be able to look like as a baseball player technically? My swing. Maybe how I field. If I'm a pitcher, do I have the requisite, things to be a quality pitcher at that level? Stature. So in other words, now that gives you a better idea of what your athletic model should look like.
I think the interesting thing you mentioned there, Aaron, is the fact that I was watching a Major League Baseball draft, and you see all these guys that are being drafted, and you see this common theme. Like they played here, they went and did that,
right?
And you see this commonality of all these guys and what they were doing. Whether they were playing against each other, they trained with someone. They had a plan, they had a goal, they had a good support system around the parent. It just, you could see it, and it was every story,
right?
And it wasn't like, I hope I get there. No, these young people had a plan, and they initiated it, and they were very proactive with it.
It's funny because as you're telling that story, I'm smiling because everyone looks for a formula. And I always say there really isn't a formula. Not in the sense that people think there is. People think there's a tactile formula where, okay, they're going to give me this magic workout. And it's written down and I'm going to do this. Or I'm going to go to this program. I'm going to do this hitting program, this pitching program.
Right.
And that's the formula. But those are just the mechanics. And not all of those were going to work for everybody. Right. But people spend lots of money on those things thinking that they will. Whereas the formula is your approach. Because again, looking back at all the athletes that we've had that have been successful, they've all gotten there different ways mechanically, through different forms of training and instruction and different combinations, some with us, some with other coaches, so, but the successful formula has been goal setting, planning, working on that plan, consistency, and flexibility within that plan to make changes. If you guys are wanting a formula, that's your formula. And it's going to look different for every athlete. And it's going to take different periods of time. It's going to cost more. It's going to cost less. All those variables, because athletes are different. But if you wanted a general formula, if you wanted a general secret formula to success, that's the common formula for every athlete I've seen be successful over the last 25 years I've been doing this, whether it's been in track, baseball, football, swimming, you name it.
Exactly. People, there's a formula for you, and it's spoken from a true professional. And Aaron, I think it's a great talk today we had about this proactive planning, because you get these athletes moving in the right direction, and you give them those 5 key points, and it's awesome. So, people, we're going to leave you right now. This is Eric Johnson, the brand.
And Aaron Thigpen, the source.
We'll check you out next time on our next podcast.
Bye.